Good morning. This is Matt Sexton with the Florida Department of Transportation's Production Support Office. Welcome to our continuing series of getting started with FDOT Connect. This is number 6, the FDOT Connect Design Survey Workflow Orientation, or Survey Workflow for Designers. John Hazlip is your presenter today, and he will be taking over shortly. I'd like to point out that we do have a question and answer dialogue that's off attached to your dialogue there. I was going to say it's off on the right screen, but that's on my screen. If you have any questions during the session, please feel free to enter those into the question and answer dialogue. We will be answering them as we go. If we don't get to your question through the dialogue, John will take some time at the end of the session to answer your questions. And if we don't answer your questions by the end of the session, then we will be sure to answer them in the question and answer document, which will be posted along with a recording of the webinar on our website under the posted webinars section of the website. Again, if you have any questions, put them in the question and answer dialogue, and I'm going to turn things over to John. John, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Matt. This is Design Survey Workflow Orientation, and I call it that because it is a look into the basics of the Bentley ORD survey file. And in part 1 of the survey workflow for surveyors in this ORD series, I went over what's new in ORD. So there is going to be some overlap here, but I'll try not to repeat details as much as possible. So what we're going to do is I will be going to ORD Live, but I'm going to show a lot of slides on this presentation too. So we're going to jump into the FDOT Connect workspace. As you've seen before, we'll use the Create or Select Workspace project to either select our work set or create the work set. And if you do create a work set, it's going you'll put in the number and then use the work set template and hit OK. Or you're going to select and browse to an existing file. In this case, we're going to be using the Wakulla training data set, and this is the survey, the SURVRD 01 for that data set, so I'll be opening up and taking a look at it. I did want to point out that you do have to, you're going to need to set your workflow, and which is new to the Bentley platform. You have possibilities of OpenRoads modeling or drawing production, survey, geotechnical, reality modeling, drawing, modeling, visualizations, subsurface utilities, and any other add-ons might show up here, for instance, Topo DOT. We'll also open up the Explorer and show the different menus in the Explorer where you can work with your survey file. Also, you have up here an OpenRoads model category and an OpenRoads standards category right here where you can visualize, and I'm going to show some of that live. When you choose your survey workflow, you'll see a ribbon specifically for the survey workflow, and what is really important to understand about in this Explorer and under the survey category, that you have a chance to visualize the survey data with checkboxes. Now, this was true also in SS4, but if you haven't seen it, this is the way it's going to work with the Bentley survey. You can expand the survey data folder to segregate the survey data. You can dig down into filters that are preset, or you can create your own. So their survey filters can be used to visualize survey data by attribute, and those attributes include field code, DTM, the zone or combination of all of these attributes. And then once we get into the points or chains, or linear features as they call them, you can select and visualize with the details. I'm going to switch over to ORD for a moment and show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to select the survey, give it a moment to come up, and then I'm going to show some visualizations with the different categories under the survey in the Explorer. And one of the things that's important to note is that when you are in the survey itself and you're looking in through the field books and digging down through the categories, they're almost organized like folders, but they're the categories of features. You can visualize independently each of these features, and you can also show the chains, the actual details of the chains or the details of the points by selecting them. And you can do it two different ways. You can, or maybe there's even more than that, but you can look under the survey category, which is right up here, and you're going to have under Analyze, you'll have something called Show Details right here. You also can right-click, as long as the survey is called a SURVRD 01, you can right-click in the view, and you have right-click and hold, and you actually have Show Details right here. Okay, so you have functionality that's built in to the right-click in FDOT Connect. So what I want to show is that, and if you've never seen a survey before and you're curious of what's in it, because and there is a lot of data. I mean, we have designers come back and say, well, there's a lot of data to go through here. It is, but it can easily be segregated into different types of data. Okay, so in this case, we have field books and we have filters, and we can turn everything off that was brought in through an import event. So for instance, I can dig down into this field book, and here it is, and I can look into the data, and I can see in this case this was brought in. This is an older survey of probably somewhere in the 15-year-old range, and it was done in Casey and brought in through segments. Okay, and it also can be done EFB, so you can see you can actually visualize the individual segments, or you can do it in groups by points and by features. And by selecting this, and I'm going to tell you this is going to take just a few seconds because there's a lot of data, and so it's going to circle a little bit. But once you turn off, I'm just turning off everything that's shown under the survey data. And then what's left is, and that's not exactly what I expected to see, but you kind of get the idea. Let me do this. I'm actually going through and turning all of this back on because I want to filter this in a different way. In fact, I'm going to close this and go to a different file. And the reason was that particular file had been converted to graphics. So there's a lot of graphics. There's a lot of surveyed in it, but there's also a lot of graphics in it too. So let me open up a different version of the same file. And I'm actually going to switch. I'm going to have to switch to this work set anyway to show you what I want to show you. And of course, I'm doing this on a laptop, so its power is a lot less than some of what you'll be using. So this normally would go a little bit faster on a high-end desktop. But ORD is a big program, and dealing with a lot of data takes a lot of processing power. Okay. Okay, it's coming up now. All right, so I'm going to dig down. I'm going to turn off the bulk of the survey features. There's going to be some data, some graphic data still in here. Hopefully this doesn't crash. Okay, so so what you're going to see, you are going to see some pavement features that have been brought in, but most everything is off. Let me go over here to my level display, and I'm just going to turn off by element a few things. Get some of this stuff off. And what I want to show you is that when you have your survey features off, you're going to end up with just a few different elements. A couple other things I want to turn off by element. And you'll most likely end up with some right-of-way details. You'll end up with an alignment. Then also, and let me turn my civil AccuDraw off, or my regular AccuDraw off. And then the element selection, I can hover on this, and you see you've got a boundary to the terrain model, and the terrain model itself is also still on. And then, like I said, you have sections lines, township lines, that kind of stuff, side streets, reference lines, there's a reference line. Those kind of things will still be on once you turn off your survey data. You can also filter, you can actually go through some of that data. I'll do that in a few minutes, but I want to show you that you have your subsurface utility, you have your OpenRoads standards here. And under OpenRoads standards, you can actually visualize there too, and this is very important because it gives you some flexibility. So there's the alignment on, so I can turn it off. The terrain model itself, I can turn it off. Now what you see, you still see the boundary that limited the terrain model. Okay, so it's just a level that's on. I can turn it off just by element, unless, let me see, off by element. Yeah, and then we also have some linear data in here, and that's actually models too, and are shown under the OpenRoads standards. So I can visualize those two. We've got right-of-way mapping elements. I can turn those, and then you got various baselines. Those are and there's some pavement that was still left on from earlier. But your baselines, your side streets, your reference lines, those things can be turned on there. Also, you can visualize with these standards, and those are important to understand because when QCing the survey software, these really come in handy. It allows you to, for instance, turn on, let me go over here to, I'll go ahead and turn all of this back on, and terrain and alignment, and then the linear. But you also have survey here, and this is what we were looking at before. So if I turn this off and turn it back on, let me get this to go off for you. And now I'm going to drop this down, and I want to show you that I can turn on just certain areas of my survey. So as I click drainage, for instance, it's going to circle a little bit before it visualizes. And it probably wants to be rebooted. Yeah, I was afraid it was going to crash. Let me close that out. And it's probably a good thing because it was actually going very slow. Let me go back, open up ORD, and bear with me. Whenever you're working live over this many computers with this software, it slows it down. Normally, it doesn't act this slow. And this is probably a case where I should run Workspace Doctor, but I don't believe I have to do that right at the moment. Okay. Probably the easiest thing is let's go ahead and revisualize everything, and then let me show you what I was trying to show you over in the OpenRoads standards. So I've got it all coming back up. And what I was showing you is that, for instance, you may have zone issues with with utilities being on the drainage zone or on zone 2, or drainage being on zone 1, those kind of things. And what you can do is you can come in and you can go to your survey OpenRoads standards. These are where your features are actually recorded. And you can dig down under, and I'm going to do what I tried to do a moment ago. Hopefully it doesn't crash again. Turn this off and only turn on just what I'm looking for. And I knew when I was practicing this that this was going to be a slow part, so I apologize for this is one of those cases where the workspace doctor probably would be a good idea. Let me run it real quick and see if I can clean some of this up. While that's coming up, I'm going to switch back and to my PowerPoint and point out some of the things. So I'll show you the details in just a few minutes. Also, one of the Fieldbook functionality, and I did mention this in a previous webinar, is the SQLite that Bentley has come up for ORD, and you can find it here on the Fieldbooks, on the survey ribbon under Fieldbooks. And these are really good in that you can export and import the Fieldbook in its entirety, and that was not true with the XML, or the land XML file that they had as an option in SS4. Also, we have toggles for annotations, and you can toggle them on and off, and we see this a lot when we come in. They'll be toggled off, and folks just are trying, our users get in there and they're trying to see the labeling that's going on, and it's not there, and they're going, where's the labels? And a lot of times this toggle is off right here. It's actually been toggled off, and it's under Analyze under the Survey tab. Let me go back to the thing, and it looks like I am just dead stuck on this program, which is tough, and I'm not sure what exactly is going on, other than we are on a GoToWebinar and I'm using a high-end program on a low-end computer. And I'm gonna try this one more time. If not, I'll just stick to the webinar. Let's see what happens. And actually, I have another file right here, which is the same file. Let me see if that one opens a little bit cleaner. Okay, yeah, this one's coming up much faster. Okay, so let's see. Let's go back to, I'm going to go back to my survey category, because I wanted to show you this too, because I showed you a little bit about visualization, but I want you to see also that we have point features, and we can actually look and see what's in the survey database. So if I go to my survey ribbon and go to Analyze, I have the Show Details right here, or I can right click and say Show Details. And what that's going to do is that's going to pull up all, in this case I have all point features highlighted. So it's going to show all the point features in the entire database. And believe me, this is all of them. There are thousands. But I can segregate down. If I want to see just the shots that was taken for asphalt pavement, these are the shots. And if I want to see, let's say I want to see, instead of that, I want to see all the cross sections. Okay, here's all the check sections that were taken for throughout the project. So if I want to see anything, and it's also true with linear features. So if I want to see anything in the project, this is how you look at it. This is what's embedded in the DGN file, and this is the database itself. This is a look into the database. Okay. there's all my asphalt pavement chains. Okay, and then you know, we could switch and look to anything for that matter. It could be sidewalk, or it could be sanitary sewer. Yeah. So our show details is our window into this particular survey field book right here. Okay. As I mentioned on the toggles on and off, I did want to go over there and touch on that just for a moment. So let me go back to my ORD and then show you. Now this is also something that, and unfortunately, takes a little time. So here you do see the specific labels, and these are survey labels. Now this does not affect linear annotation for baselines. This only affect, and it does do it for survey linear features, but not for baselines and not for other horizontal geometry. So if I click on it again, it's a little slow, but it should turn off all the labels. Okay. And they will stay off until turned back on. Okay. So in many cases, I have had people say, "Where are my labels?" And that's exactly what the problem is. These are you can actually create the survey labels themselves are created. They are a specific label that's tied directly to a feature. So whether it's a chain feature or a point feature, these labels are tied to them, and they can be moved. You can pick them up. You can edit them with normal type editing, text editing tools. So I could add them. I could add to this. I could go in and actually change what it says. For instance, it'll bring it up. I can say I could say it says ASP. I could just say pavement, for instance, and it'll change it. And I could add multiple lines, whatever you want to do. You can move it to where you want, but it is still tied to the feature. Okay. Go back. And I talked a little bit about this. I won't go into detail here in the very first survey workflow for surveyors. So, but the point decorations are important to understand. They are a part of the civil tools that are used with Bentley. And I did want to go back and show something on that too, in case you want to know. So I'm going to go back to Analyze and turn on names, for instance, and notice how they can get big or stay small or be static, in size, or just kind of take over the screen if you don't look out. However, we can go to the backstage of the file itself, and I can go look under settings, and I believe it might be under preferences and civil options, and you do have, there's right here, well, I couldn't do that, I hit the wrong button, right here, survey decorations. And then this is where you can actually change the size of the survey decorations, color, that kind of stuff. So you've got different ones that you can show. Okay. And of course, let me see if I can get to them. There they are. Okay, field codes, and it tells you what's on and off. So I can turn them off here too. And then you've got sizes and colors for each. Say okay, and I'll go back to the front stage, and you can see that the decorations are off. I turned them off. All right. The contextual menus are still available. All you got to do is right-click on a chain, and you will be able to edit the chain with a contextual menu. You have to deactivate the surveying rules if you're going to edit triangles. This is something that we saw in SS4, but if you have a survey, you have to go to the default category right here in your survey. You right-click and you say deactivate survey rules, and then when you see the edit model up here, you'll have the edit right here, tools, in your normal element contextual element box that comes up. We also have geometry tools. I'm not going to get into that because that's going to be a webinar to itself, but Bentley does have COGO, and they are available. And if you look under the geometry tab in any of the workflows, and we're still in the survey, you've got your civil AccuDraw right here, and that's how you're going to do intersections, line intersections, line arc intersections, that kind of thing. You've got a point that you can add to the file. These are 2D points along with your 2D lines, but we actually have 2D point features. Of course, you've got your modify in order to create or change your stationing or create a complex chain to make an alignment. And then there's your civil AccuDraw. When you do the drop down, you can see you also have deactivate, activate rules, and remove rules in case you have a terrain model that has to be edited and it has rules assigned to it. Again, these tools are in your geometry tab. There's your locate point over here on the right. You've got geometry builder and geometry connector, the table editor, and then under modify, you've got your geometry builder edit. Those are all tools that are used with ORD COGO. You also have in the OpenRoads modeling tab, you've got some notables I wanted to point out. Okay, you've got the create file tool. Well, first of all, you got your FDOT tab, and under that you've got create files, you got link data manager, your coordinates system, your workspace doctor, and your quality control. And then under these actions, I'm going to show you in a little while shortly the copy reference tool, how that works, and then the create existing features models, and show you how that works also. I also have ORD survey level filters, and these can be very handy. They work kind of like the visualization, but they're much quicker because you're not dealing with turning and off features. You're actually just dealing with levels, which will go a lot faster. And let me go over here to ORD and just see if I can give you a quick demonstration here. I'm going over to my level display. And of course, if I want to see just my alignment, there's my alignment. And we've got the drainage. Okay, so this is actually something that it doesn't have the points on the edges because we don't want to see those in the DREX RD. We also have there's your GDTM. Let me turn this drainage off. We got the GDTM RD right here. Put that size. So there's your terrain model, existing terrain model, and if I go down, I also have the topo filter. So there's just your topo levels, and then of course utilities, and of course labels also go with those particular utilities. So, but beyond that, we also have some others that are very handy, and we have, for instance, some survey labels or survey filters that can be very useful if you want to see just curb and gutter. Now, there's other ways of visualizing this. I'm going to show that when we look at existing features, but this can be handy for just perusing through a survey file. Okay, so you got curb and gutter. You also have labels just for drainage or inverts, for instance. I know I have a few in here. There's inverts, labels, monuments, all survey labels. That's just everything thrown in there in case you need to do some bulk editing. There are no survey point decorations anymore because those are handled by Bentley. We've got topo labels, utilities above ground and below ground. Okay, so, and then there's an existing pavement level filter right here, and that also can be very handy for looking through and getting this cleaned up. Because, for instance, this is a State Road 30 project going along here, and we got State Road 61 intersecting here, and we're going to need to show a edge of pavement right along this area where my cursor is. Okay, so when State Road 30 gets modeled, we don't want to see State Road 61 there also. We'll show that also with a different model. Okay, so it gets shown, but it's as a different model. Okay, and then of course pavement markings, you have those. So these are some very handy level filters that that you can use. Let me go back to my PowerPoint for a moment. And I want to mention a couple of things that you want to watch out for. The select element annotation and annotating everything at once. You want to be careful because prior to version right down here, 10.07.01.32, any version of ORD prior to that, if you select a point feature and annotate it and it does not have a description, it will actually put an empty text node. You may not see the text node, but it's there and it adds to the file. Okay. Dash cells also were an issue in the past. They were not legible when plotted, and so what we've done is we've gone in and we've put inherent dashes in these cells so they look much better, they plot much better, and also there's now only one cell library. There is no more SYENG or RWENG file for right-of-way English symbology and symbology English for surveying. There is only one cell library, and it's survey.cel. Now that we still have a right-of-way cell library, ROW.cel, but the survey cell library is one file, and it's called survey. I wanted to comment on terrain models for a moment. They are built from the Fieldbook and they are tied to the Fieldbook. That's why you have to, and they are all constantly processing. That's why if you want to edit any kind of triangles, you must stop the survey processing by right-clicking on the default category in the survey data set. Okay, terrain models can be exported to a land.xml or a TIN file, and you're probably going to find that happening quite often in order to separate it, because anything that changes in the survey is going to also change that that terrain model. So if it is dynamically linked, if that needs to stop and you need to keep the survey terrain terrain model static, then it will need to be exported as a land.xml or 10. In fact, I think Bentley recommends use of 10 because that's their format, and it goes back and forth between different platforms that Bentley has very well. When you have a choice on a land.xml, you want to export both and import terrain only. Okay. Also, I wanted to have a word about the difference between an SS4 survey and an ORD survey. And if I've mentioned this before, and of course the CAD support policy is if you start a project in SS4, you need to finish it in SS4, and vice versa. So ORD survey, you don't need to be you can't go back to SS4, and that is largely true with surveys, but you can actually you can do some things to get that data back and forth, and that's to get the terrain model out of the file and to get any alignments out of the file. And when I say out of the file, either way, whether you're going from SS4 to ORD or ORD to SS4, you cannot have these models in the file when you bring over the data. So and all other SS4 data has to be pure graphics, so it can't be survey features or anything like that. And of course, we do have a right-click functionality to do that. It's real easy. You go up to the survey, you right-click, you say export to DGN graphics, which is what I had done before earlier. It's why you saw those graphics. So you're going to turn all of this Fieldbook will actually disappear. You'll actually create a new file is what you're going to do, and it's going to not have a Fieldbook, but it will have terrain models and it will have any other linear models, and those have to be removed from the file before you can reference this file into an ORD, or if you're going from ORD to SS4, you're going to need to reference this file in, but only pure graphics are going to come across. In fact, only pure graphics are going to be able to be referenced in. So it's a process, and it's really not recommended unless it's absolutely necessary. From there, you import merge all of this into a new ORD survey file, and then you've got something designers can work with. Okay. Of course, here's where you can export the terrain model as a GeoPack 10. You can go up to your OpenRoads models right up here under the OpenRoads model category, find your terrain model, right click on it, export terrain to either a GeoPack 10 or a landing XML. When you import it, you want to import it from a file. You do that under terrain in the ribbon, and in this particular one, I'm in the survey ribbon. You also, if you want to export or import geometry chains, you're going to do that from whatever tab. This is the survey tab, the survey ribbon workflow. So under geometry, you've got import, export, or import, export, and then you also have an export geometry right here too. So, and one thing I want you to be aware of before I go over and give you a quick demonstration of models is when selecting dialogues, turn off the properties dialog box. When creating terrain models from selection set, you have to hold down the control and right click on Fieldbooks. You really want to make sure you turn off the properties dialog box, because there are so many thousands of properties. When you select, if you select a whole lot, for some reason that property box being open will drag it down to a crawl. But if you don't leave that property box open, it'll be very quick. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about existing models, and it's probably faster for me to show you this than to go through the PowerPoint here. But we have a create file tool. We also have an attached reference tool. I'm going to show you that, the create existing features tool, and then how to create the existing feature model and what it's all about. Okay, so before I go any further there, let me go over and see if this is going to work in ORD, and it shouldn't have a problem. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the OpenRoads modeling tab and go to the FDOT menu bar, and I'm going to create a new file. And this workflow may get pushed off onto surveyors. Designers are using it now, but you need to know how it works. If you hit roadway files, I go down here and go MOD LRD files, I'm going to create, and I can put a modifier in. I'll put 0EX underbar EX, just to show that this is for existing feature models. And once I've got that up, I'm going to close it. I'm going to also do one other thing. I'm going to show you a tool. I'm going to attach this one up to the roadway folder, because that's where I am, the RWDTR folder, or file, I'm sorry. And once I've got it attached, I'm going to use this tool right, let's see, under FDOT, it's copy reference levels. So here's a couple of levels. I want the right-of-way line and the existing right-of-way line, the proposed and the existing. I'll move it over to the other side, say process, and it really does it quickly if you don't have much attached. And then once I do that, I'm going to attach this file. And what you're going to see that is in this model, it has brought in the right-of-way line and the proposed right-of-way line. Okay. And now I'm going to use one of the tools. It's called Create Existing Features. Okay, and I can attach a survey reference, and if I hit this, what it's going to do, it's going to go out and it's going to grab the survey file, and it's going to segregate out into that references, your topo, your GDTM RD, your DREX RD, and your UTX, your utilities, and it's going to segregate those out. And we could do that from here, but first, but I want to hit this first, create features, because I'll show you what actually happens. It's going to ask me to attach a survey reference file. So I'm going to attach this one I've got right here, say open. And what that does is it brings in all these graphics right here, okay? It actually brings them into the file, and if you want to, and just to note there, it did actually attach the SURVRD as a reference file, and now I have a tool that I can use to create these features. In this case, I'm gonna pick pavement only. Sometimes you have to go to something else and go back to pavement. So I'm gonna go back to pavement. So yeah, it's just showing just pavement, and then the right-of-way line, of course. And I'm gonna use this first. You got a place feature tool. You've got a create feature shape by flood, and then you also have a create feature shape by trace. So I'm gonna do the flood. I'm gonna draw a couple lines first, and as I said earlier, I want to connect over here, because I want to segregate State Road 61 here from State Road 30. And I'll just do a little piece of State Road 61 since it's got these medians. And I go up here and select, go across, select that. Now I've cut it off. I could go, normally I would go up all the way to the end of the highway, but I don't have time. I don't want to do everything right now. So I'm just going to pretend that this is the end of the limits of our highway right here for a moment. Now I'm going to flood this area. Just left click twice, and what that does is that creates a polygon of this area. If I select it and look at it, I'll go to my elements, my properties, you're going to see it's a complex shape. So I'm going to do that also with the medians here. Left click once and left click twice. I'm going to do it again, flood this little median area here twice, and now I have three shapes out here. So what I want to do is I want to go to my level display and make sure that my survey, which I connected with my features, is on. So I'm going to turn that on. And also, once I'm done with this, once I've done all my connections and created my shapes, I want to turn this off. And you have to be careful, because if you jump into another file, if you just go file open, you could end up bringing these pavement features directly into the new file that you just opened. So you don't want to do that. So make sure it's closed. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clip this terrain out of the terrain model. So I want to see the terrain model. So I'm going to go up to my GDTM RD, because I've got my, right here, I have my survey. I'm focused on my survey reference file. So if I hit GDTM RD, there it is. Okay, so go back to my FDOT menu tab. I'm going to hit, let's see, I'm going to go over here and use my, actually I want to go to I want to go to my terrain model tab, and I want to clip out this little area into a terrain model. Okay, so if I go to my additional methods and go down and find create right here, create clip terrain model, tag my DTM, tag my polygon that I created of State Road 61, okay, right click. I want to make sure this is an external, because I want everything external clipped from this right here. So, okay, hit it twice, hit one more time, and it's going to create some the terrain model with the triangles. And I want you to note also, I'm going to go to the home tab. I now have a model created. It actually creates a 3D model, so that's where it is. And then it references this 3D model into the file. There it is. So that's what I'm actually looking at. I'm in a 2D file with the 3D model reference to it. I want to do this again for the rest of it, but I actually have some editing to do right here, but I'll get to that in just a few minutes. And then I'm going to do this again. I want to turn these off, these triangles off. Element So I'm gonna go to properties, turn my triangles off, and I want to clip again clip out these medians. So now this is where my focus is going to be. Go back to my terrain, clip it. You notice that it's the model, the actually tool is the last one I used is up top. So I'm going to clip that, the edge of my State Road 61. I'm going to locate my median. I'm going to locate both medians at the same time. And notice when I do that, when I look under create clipped, the internal actually goes to internal because it knows that's all it can do. It's also using this DTM feature as a name, and then the feature definition is DTM existing feature. You want to choose this one right here, and it'll name it, or you can give it a name, okay? And then once I've done that, I want to reset when I'm done. So I'm going to reset, go through, left clicking these, and now what I've done is I've created my State Road 61 with these clipped out. So I also now have an extra terrain model. That's the original State Road 61 without the clipped areas. So if I look, there's the original, and there's DTM feature 1 that I just created. So I'm gonna I want to delete one of them and just keep this one right here. Okay, delete that original, and I'm done with that. And that's pretty much what I wanted to show you. I can edit this. I think I mentioned that a moment ago. If I go to remove rules, and let's see, where's my remove? If you use this move rules, okay, you can always use this box right here to find out where, and I select this terrain model. Oh, I have to do it in the 3D one. I'm sorry. I won't do that now because it's going to be time consuming. What you do is you go over to the 3D model and you select it, and then you can edit it. Okay. And that pretty much finishes everything I need to do in the webinar. Let me go, let's see. I'll just show you real quick. See, what you end up doing is having to go to this model right here. And then of course you're going to see everything. So you're going to need to turn off your display. And this is actually a 3D model, and it can be edited by removing rules. Okay, so there's your 3D model that gets referenced in. So from there, I'm going to go back to the webinar. We only have a few minutes. I actually do explain this in all of this, feature tool, how to do each of these in each of these steps, okay, and in the presentation, and it'll be posted along with the video once it gets edited up, and we clean up some of that those crashes that were shown earlier. So let me go over here and look at questions.
You got one. Can I use the analyze tools when the survey is referenced?
The answer to that is, well, there's quite a few different analyze tools, but no. I think what Chris is asking there is that can you do this if you're not in the survey? And the answer to that is no. You need to be actually in the survey itself to use those. Since I have a 5 minutes, I want to show something real quick. I was right there. I want to show. I'll show how you can actually edit this. The top view here, and let's see. It's remove rules, and of course, if you hold down on it, it's going to show you where OpenRoads, geometry, general tools, civil toggles. Also under survey, geometry, general tools, civil toggles. So if I go to survey, geometry, and civil toggles, there's the remove rules, and then you just select at one time, left click, and it's done. Okay, so now if you want to go into terrain and do any editing, edit the model, you'll see that these tools do come up, and they're real easy to use. This particular one is one of the most common ones probably used. If you come in and do a line across, let's see, you have to select it and then do a line across everything you want to edit out. It just knocks it right out. So this is a pretty handy little tool. Okay, makes it easy to edit these triangles out. There you go. So now we have a finished product, or close to it. No, that's it, Matt. I really appreciate the time, and I apologize for the crashes, but that's just part of what happens sometimes when you go live.
All righty. I'd like to thank y'all for joining us today on Getting Started with FDOT Connect. We will have another webinar coming up soon. We're going to be scheduling those shortly. They will be posted on our scheduled webinar section of our website. And again, within a week or so, this webinar will be posted in the posted webinar section, a recording of it with question and answer document and the recording. And I believe there's been a request for the data set. John, is that something that you can share?
Yes, when they said data set, I kind of assume they're talking about the survey.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I'll get that to you.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for joining us today. Let's see, wait, do we have a couple more questions? When you turn the rules off, do you have to turn them back on?
Now, once you break those rules from their source, that it's really difficult to reconnect them. They're dynamically linked. So if you were to have added a feature, for instance, to a terrain model, and then they got incorporated and then had it incorporated into the terrain model, that is a rule, for instance. And then once you break those rules, everything's like standalone. So you can't turn them back on.
Okay, great. That's good to know. Okay, thanks again for everyone joining us, Getting Started with FDOT Connect. And of course, as John has posted up here, if you do need to ask us some questions or need support, you can contact us at cad.support@dot.state.fl.us. Thanks again. Have a great day.